Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Soul-u-tions podcast. My voice is very raspy because I had the most unbelievable weekend last weekend, and I can't wait to share it with you. But I also want to tell you how timely and excited I am to talk to you about the topic of today, which is how not to quit on your New Year's resolutions. So listen to the intro and I'll meet you on the other side.
Einstein said, "We cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we used when we created them." Most everyone in the world is solving their problems the wrong way. Our problems come from our thinking, and we can solve them with our thinking. So whether you're at your lowest, just trying to grow, or whether you are trying to sustain growth over your lifetime, join us as we push the boundaries of our current thinking and redefine how we find Soul-u-tions.
The hope and the strength and the love and the smiles and the laughter of friends and family. Add it up, you'll find no limit to the possibilities.
Okay, first I have to talk about the voice. Because I'm recording this episode on December the 18th, which is my younger sister's birthday. Shout out to the Twig. Happy birthday, Twig. And my husband and I were in Denver, Colorado for the weekend for a friend's 50th birthday extravaganza. And when I say extravaganza, I mean extravaganza. We knew it was going to be awesome. And when the Save the Dates came out in March and they said, Darius Rucker, join us and Darius Rucker in wishing our friend a happy 50th birthday. So, you better believe we blocked out the weekend way back in March. But when we got there and on Saturday night, the little thing that you get in your hotel rooms that, welcome you and say, here's all the party stuff, and the Friday night event, the Saturday night event, it's like shuttles will arrive at 5:40. And the event will run from 6 p.m. to midnight. And I truly took a pause and I'm looking at this invitation. I'm like, wait a second. What in the world are we going to be doing for 6 hours at this party? That is a very long time. And it's not the kind of party where I'm thinking, oh, you'll just drop in at 8, go to dinner before and get there at 8. No. Shuttles are picking you up at your hotel at 5:40 and you are going to be at the event for 6 full hours. Well, we got there, arrived, immediately, everybody's there. It's gorgeous. It's beautiful. The facility is fully decorated and you get a signature cocktail and then, which was really yummy. I don't know if you've ever heard of the Gardener. It is a tequila drink. You've got to Google it because it's the Nobu chef. They serve it at his restaurant. But it's some kind of cilantro ginger puree that goes in with your favorite tequila or gin or vodka, but I do suggest tequila because that's how we had it. And then we went to escorted to a photo booth where you got these Vogue Annie Leibovitz style photos of you and yours and just fun videos and slideshow of our birthday girl and lots of great food. And then Darius and his band played for an hour and a half, 2 hours. We sang happy birthday. Another great video that everybody watched together of, the birthday girl's parents and siblings and kids and husband just wishing her happy birthday. And then her husband gets up on stage and he goes, okay, for the big reveal. And Lionel Richie walks out on stage and plays for an hour and a half. And we are all, Luke Bryan was standing next to me and he's fangirling over Lionel Richie and he sees him on the Idol all the time. We just screamed and sang between Darius and Lionel for 4.5 hours that night. And then there was a disco party. So if you're wondering what you could do for your spouse's upcoming big birthday celebration, try a 6-hour event with all of those fun things, and you'll hit it out of the ballpark. So that's the reason for the raspy voice. But this episode is going to drop on January 9th. And I don't know if you know this. I only became aware of this date about 2 years ago. But there is a thing, and it is called National Quitters Day. That's right, National Quitters Day. And National Quitters Day is an actual day on the calendar. It is the second Friday of January. And this is the day where 80% of people who have a New Year's resolution that they quit on their New Year's resolutions. Now, I don't want you to fall prey to National Quitters Day. I'm going to become a poet one day. So I want to help you out. This is going to drop the day before National Quitters Day. So hopefully you are a subscriber and you're going to listen to it the day it comes out. And then you're going to tell all your friends and family. And you're going to do me the biggest favor, which is to forward this podcast to them and say, please listen to this. I want to save you. This is going to be in your text. You're going to just push the share button on whether you listen to this on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or the YouTube. There's a little share arrow, and you're going to hit share, and then you're going to wait for it to populate to your best family text or group friend text, and you're like, listen to this. I want to save you from quitting on your New Year's resolutions. Thank me now. And let them listen to it. And then we'll talk about this a little bit more in the episode, because one of the things I think that we miss and what the research says is it's really good to have accountability partners, like people we partner up with regard to our New Year's resolutions, and that we can check in with one another from time to time. And this is one of the reasons why people quit on their New Year's resolutions. And it's because you're so motivated at the beginning of the year. You know, everybody's kind of caught up in this holiday spirit. And then the next holiday is New Year's, and we're super excited about it. And we all get just kind of hooked in this idea of new year, new you, and kissing last year, goodbye, saying good riddance, especially if you've had a really tough year. And I know a lot of you who listen to this had a really tough year. Most of you live in an area that was ravaged by Hurricane Helene. Some of you aren't back in your homes yet. You're still dealing with insurance claims. And on top of that, you're just dealing with the regular old life stuff. Kids growing up, parents aging, your own marriage and work stress and problems. And so when it comes to New Year's, I do think part of it is this escapism, this fantasy that with the new year, all of our troubles will be erased, and there's this beautiful promise, and we can just float into the fantasy of happily ever after. And if you listen to this podcast, you know that happily ever after really isn't what you were socialized or marketed to by Disney to believe it is. Happily ever after is not a life or a year where there are no problems. It's not this magical, elusive place where you stay motivated. You have that feeling of New Year feeling every morning for the rest of the year. And that's what the researchers found who coined the second Friday of January, National Quitters Day. They found that that's about 2 weeks is about as long as that kind of fast, quick energy of motivation that we can sustain that will just sustain on its own. And so 8%, okay, 80% of people will quit on their New Year's resolutions by the second Friday of the month. Only 8% of people will actually achieve their New Year's resolutions. And I think this is interesting, and this will tie into the subject matter of today's podcast. For most of those people, it actually takes them 2 years to accomplish their New Year's resolution. Okay, so why does this happen? Well, there are 3 main reasons why this happens. Reason number 1 is we just overestimate the things that we can do within a year. I mean, we overestimate that. We also, this phrase, go big or go home, we are also very conditioned to think big. Like, in order for a New Year's resolution to be worthy of resolution, I don't know what that word would be, but to be worthy of sharing with other people as a resolution, it needs to be really big. But the science says we need to start really small. We need to start small and not start big. Now, it doesn't mean you can't have a big resolution, but it means that you can just say, okay, here's the big resolution. It might take me 2 years to accomplish that resolution. Now, why is it important to give yourself a longer period of time? Well, we want to make it achievable. This is just basic goal science, right? It needs to be achievable and doable. So it needs to be exciting enough to get your attention, but it needs to be achievable. And often our big goals, the only thing standing in the way between us and achieving our goals is time, and is the skill set of not quitting on yourself and not quitting on your goals. We talk about this all the time in the Soul-u-tions Labs, about having your own back and not quitting on the things you really want in life. And truly what we discovered is, this is number 2 reason why I think people quit on their New Year's resolutions and on goals in general, is because they just didn't anticipate the obstacles that would come in their way, right? Like, you just don't anticipate that. I'll just take last year, for example. So last year, my father passed away on January the 6th. When I set my New Year's resolutions, I did not anticipate. I knew that my father was getting to the late stages. I didn't know when it would be. And so I, just set those New Year's resolutions. So, I'm going to get how many podcasts done in January. I'm going to have a launch for the Soul-u-tions Labs, blah, blah, blah. But then when that happened and my father passed away, there was so much work to be done. And you don't just get over something like that. You have to plan a funeral, which is kind of like planning a wedding, but you have 3 days to do it. You have so much going on inside of you to grieve. You've got interaction with other family members. You've got your own kids, perhaps. And then you have a business to run. And it's just a lot to handle. And if I didn't have the skill set of understanding, oh yeah, this was just something I didn't anticipate was going to come up right now. And because I'd never lived through it before, I didn't have a blueprint to compare, like to have some expectations around it. I probably would have beat myself up for by the end of January, for like, I had set all these great goals and I haven't achieved them. And I would also not have had the skill set of having my own back and being kind and compassionate to myself. So if you're watching this on YouTube, you can see that when I said those words, having my own back, I moved my right hand to my chest. And I do that. I have trained myself to do that because this is, for me, how I actually physically show compassion to myself. It's like if you were going to put your hand on a friend's knee or grab hold of someone's hand, or if you were, I always remembered like with my babies, if I was trying to soothe them and I'd held them up on my chest and I would just kind of pat their backs, right? This is an expression of compassion for myself that I've trained myself to give. And I do this all the time. And if you're in the Soul-Shine Labs, you know it because we're on this Zoom call and it's on video. And probably you could play the Bob Newhart game with how many times I touch my hand to my chest. And if you don't know what the Bob Newhart game is, you're just going to have to GTS that because it's a kind of a fun thing to do. And, we did that back in the 80s. So it is definitely, you're in midlife when, you say one of those things. Yeah, that's just a giveaway. But we develop, we think that being compassionate to ourselves has to be this big thing, but it truly is something as simple as learning how to just place your hand on your chest and say, I just didn't expect that obstacle to happen. It could have been, another January I will never forget in my life, January 9th, when my son Brennan was diagnosed with leukemia. I mean, that year, wowza, we thought after meeting with all the doctors, they're like, yeah, we'll treat this. And he's going to have 6 months of treatment, maybe 9 months, and then you'll be fine. We're like, oh yeah, we'll do everything right. And then we'll still have the rest of the year. And lo and behold, I would never, ever have figured that as I sit here on the, threshold of January of 2025, that I would still be living out the impact and ripple effect of January of 2009. And that the real kind of resolutions that we pick are the resolutions like I'm talking about. What if this year was the year I learned how to have my own back and be compassionate to myself? If it's the year I want to lose 15 pounds, that's great. But what if my primary resolution was something like having my own back, giving myself more time to achieve a goal, or learning not to quit on myself? And I say that, learning how to not quit on myself versus not quit on the specific XYZ thing, it's because any goal that we set, any resolution that we set, is truly about the journey of finding out a little bit more about yourself than you knew in the previous year. Yes, the losing 15 pounds or the running a marathon is a great thing to do, but it's the who you become in the process of that. And I think that 80% of people who you are now no longer a part of, because you are listening to this podcast and you have forwarded it to at least one person that you love on your list and made accountable. So you've already changed the trajectory of your life and at least one other person's life. But it's all about who we become every year in our lives. And so, what is that person? Who is that person that you want to become every year of your life? And for me, it's I want to become a person who is more loving and learns how to love deeper and wider every year, no matter what my circumstances are. And that's first toward myself and then toward other people. And then I want to know, what impact can I make by just becoming that person? What just kind of fun byproduct could that be? All right, back to the National Quitters Day. So you've got my first two things. One is that, we don't give ourselves enough time, right? We think it has to be this really big thing. So we want to extend the time, and we also want to chunk down what we do. So look back at your goals and say, okay, and the weight loss thing is super easy, but if I were to lose 15 pounds, that's 15 pounds by the end of 2025. So what would that look like? What would January look like? Do I want to lose 1 pound by January? I mean, truly, to lose 15 pounds, if you just found something that resulted in you losing a pound a month or a little over a pound a month, I think it'd come out to about 1.25 pounds a month, and you just figured that out and you just decided to make that a lifestyle, whatever that is, could be something pretty easy to fold into your life versus my guess is, because I've done this, and if your brain is like my brain, it's got to overachieve in this goal, which means that my New Year's goal isn't really to lose 15 pounds. It's like my March 1st goal is to lose 15 pounds. My B at the Masters is to have lost 15 pounds. And if I'm not on that track and I get too close to the Masters, even if I didn't quit on myself on the second Friday of January, I am going to have quit on myself by the first week of April. So really, just taking a moment to stop, look, and listen at those goals and plot them out. What would that look like? Okay. The second one was not being prepared for obstacles. And, I think those are the big ones. And so if you need some help, all right, you're like, okay, Tara, I've got all this. This is all well and good. Now I'm thinking about my New Year's resolution differently. Now there's another component that I want you to add on that will ensure that you get to the end of the year and you have something juicy to show for it. And that's that free masterclass that you have access to in what we call the secret to creating a life that you love. It's the secret to creating the most pressing problems in your life. It's also the secret to, making sure that you end the year having achieved the New Year's goals that you set for yourself. And it's that simple 25-5-3 tool. And I promise you, if you use this tool on a weekly basis, if you take the 20 minutes to actually ask yourself these 3 simple questions every Friday, you will get there. So this is what I suggest you do right now. I suggest you open up your calendar on your thingy, this thingy being the iPhone or whatever it is that you use to keep your calendar. And I want you to just look at your week. Now, for those of us in the Soul-u-tions Labs, we do this at 11 o'clock a.m. every Friday Eastern time. And that could just be an easy time for you to do it too, because you could do it knowing that there are a bunch of other people in the world who are doing this same thing at the same time that you're doing. So pick a time like that. And then make it a repeating, which you can do. It's amazing, these little calendars that we have access to on our phones, make it a repeating weekly event. All right, now, I don't know if you know about this feature, but there is an invitation feature on your calendar. So, you know, those people that you sent this podcast to, I want you to invite one or all of them to this recurring appointment of doing the 25-5-3. And that's all it needs to be, 25/5/3. That's going to be the name of this appointment. And then everybody, they're going to see this weekly. You're going to see it weekly. They're going to see it weekly. And this is how it goes. You're going to list 25 things that are working in relation to that New Year's resolution that you have. All right? And you're going to have to list 25 things that are working. And you're going to say nothing's working. I mean, I haven't gotten off the ground in it, because the first day you're going to do this is on National Quitters Day 2025. And you may not have a lot of evidence for what's working, but you could say, I'm subscribed to the Soul-u-tions podcast. That's working because I got this podcast. My phone is working and my text is working. Okay, I'm up to 3 things. I have a group of friends, or at least one person that I could forward this podcast to, right? That's working. And I tell you what, if you've got 15 people in your family, I'd give you credit for 15 things that are working that you forwarded this to. The internet is working. The cellular towers are working. Like, truly, if you think about all these things, the programming on my phone that has a calendar is working, that let me set this appointment, that let me make it weekly, and that let me share it with other people. There are 25 things that are working. Now, those aren't necessarily the things that you thought of, but these things are the things that are going to support you in achieving your goal for the rest of the year. And then the next thing you're going to do is list 5 things that aren't working. All right, so think about it. From the time you set this resolution until today, what are 5 things that aren't working? What are 5 things that are getting in the way of you, like, taking the next step that you need to take in conjunction with, like, that goal? All right, I'm going to steal something from the author of Atomic Habits, and which is a great book, and that could be something we're going to put on our 3 list. I'll bookmark that thought and remember that later. But, you know, 5 things that aren't working. Like, it could be you're not putting your clothes out. If this is like, you know, your goal is to lose 15 pounds or to exercise more, something like that. I'm not putting my clothes out the night before. I'm not actually setting an appointment to do it on my calendar. I actually haven't decided when in my day I'm going to do it. It doesn't have a hard time. It's just I wake up and say, I'm just going to exercise today, and then get to the end of the day and I haven't exercised. Okay, so something that's not working is I just haven't put it a specific time and assignment on my calendar. So you get the picture, right, on the 5 things that aren't working. Okay, the next thing is looking back or looking ahead now at the 3 things you're going to do differently. So one thing you're going to do differently, set a specific time. The other thing, it could be like, oh, maybe I need to fill my head with a little more good stuff in there. That's where this Atomic Habits bookmark comes back in. You know, I want to learn about why starting small is helpful when it comes to achieving goals. And this is where the lawyer in me comes in. Like, this whole 25-5-3 tool is about making a case for yourself, making a case as to what is working, learning that skill set of what is working and feeling supported in your life, minimizing the case of what isn't working, and then empowering yourself with small actionable things, right? That's going to make it more like, what is that word that I'm thinking? Like, inevitable. Make it more inevitable for yourself that you're actually going to achieve your goals. And so if you do something like listen to or read Atomic Habits, you're going to get a lot of feedback as to why it takes longer and what starting small is, especially as the overachiever who thinks that, oh, I haven't gotten into the gym to do 2 hours of workouts yet. No, he says in Atomic Habits, the first thing to do is just to lace up your shoes. Like spend the first week just putting your shoes on at the designated time. Then the second thing is putting your shoes on at the designated time and driving to the gym, getting out of your car, walking into the gym, and walking back into your car and going home. I know, you didn't even work out. It's crazy. But what you're doing is you're establishing the small little things and finding ways to fit them into your schedule. And once you figure out and you master and you celebrate the things that are working, like, oh, putting on my shoes, driving to the gym is actually working. Now I'm going to get on the treadmill for 10 minutes. Keep it small, actionable, and doable. And I promise you, you will make it to the end of 2025 and we will be celebrating all the amazing things that you did this year and celebrating you being the overachiever of being the 8% of people who actually followed through with their New Year's goals. And in doing that, there goes my hand over my heart again, because this is what makes me so happy. You will have become a person who has her own back. You will become a person that the real skill set that you walk away from 2025 with is a person who doesn't quit on herself and who figures it out and lets it be messy and keeps coming back. I mean, think of it. If you do that 25-5-3 exercise for 52 weeks in a year, you will have 25 times 52 ways of things that are working. And only 5 times 52 ways of things that aren't working, and 3 times 52 ways of things you could do differently. And with that in the bank, you are unstoppable. Okay, people, have a great day. Happy New Year. Talk to you next time.
And I ain't done loving the ones who cared for me. The hope and the strength and the love and the smiles and the laughter of friends and family. Add it up, you'll find no limit to the possibilities. The left and the right and some faith in the fight.